this is to show the lack of learning can really downgrade or upgrade your perspective in just a matter of seconds. So keep learning and keep growing. Starting with today's session, I would welcome Dr. Dinesh Chauhan, VP Dehat. Dr. Chauhan comes with more than 2 decades of global experience in working and handling large projects both in Africa and India. He has diverse experience working both in agri inputs as well as the output side of the value chain, both for fresh and soft commodities, along with international consulting and non-for-profits. Post his MBA, he started his career as a management trainee with Mahindra and went on to become the CEO of International Agriculture Consulting Group. Until recently, he was the director and COO of the Indian Society of Agribusiness Professionals, ISAP. He was also category head of FNV with Reliance Retail in Delhi NCR and Haryana. He looked after the collateral managed business of Origo Commodities as national head business development. Let us hear from Sir on the potential he thinks Indian agriculture has and how can we redefine agriculture. Over to you, sir.
Yeah. So thank you for such a wonderful introduction, and I would like to welcome all the audience over here on this Zoom call today. I'm sorry that my bandwidth is low, and because I'm traveling, so uh, it's difficult for me to actually switch on the video because I tried a couple of times, but then the network issue has been there. Nevertheless, so the topic today on which I'm going to speak or speak is about AgTech unlocking the potential of agriculture value chains. Just a minute. Can I share the screen? So is my screen visible now?
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Yeah. So according to FAO, by 2050, the population of the world will grow to 9.7 billion, and and more than 820 million people are actually, as of now, chronically undernourished. So there has been a lot of pressure on the entire ecosystem to produce more. We can see that the land has been shrinking, and the way at the pace at which the population will be growing, probably we will be requiring much more to do than what we are doing currently. But because of the rapid urbanization, the land will be shrinking, and so there will be a need of uh, finding out ways how we can actually practice agriculture so that we can feed the population, which will become double by the end of this 2050. So there comes the role of agriculture technology, which plays a very crucial role. How to grow more in with lesser amount of resources and less availability of land, and because of this, we can see that the global agtech industry, which was worth somewhere around 21 billion US dollar in 2023, and we can see that the market is expected to reach to $43 billion by 2030 at a compounded CAGR rate of 10.2%. Typically, if you see the global land use for food production, if you can see that out of the total land or surface, almost 71% is actually ocean, and only around 30% of land is available with human mankind. Out of the 30% of land, almost 71% uh, is the only habitable land. And from this, out of this 71% land, the land which is available for agriculture is just 46%. And even in this 46% land, more than 77% is actually being utilized by the livestock, and only 23% is available for crop production. We can see that the land available for crop production is less in compared to the land which is actually available for the livestock for grazing and meat production, etc. whereas the land available for crop production uh, is uh, is contributing to 80%, 80 more than 80% for plant-based food, which contributes to somewhere around 63% of the global protein supply comes from this. So you can see that this is the current status. This data is of somewhere around 2019. Probably this data might have further shrunken with in previous 3-4 years time. But exactly with the help of this data, we can see that the current land availability is actually very less in comparison to the kind of population which we are supposed to feed in coming days. If you see this graph clearly shows how this global agtech industry is going to grow year on year basis in terms of valuation. If we talk about agriculture value chain, so typically an agriculture value chain starts with agri input, which comprises of seed, fertilizer, pesticide, etc., and then which leads to production or farming. And once the crop is grown or production has been done on the ground, we have to do the harvesting of these crops, and from harvesting it passes on to food processing, and from food processing it goes to packaging, and then finally to retail, and then it reaches to the consumer. So this is a typical journey which any food commodity travels from, right from field to the consumer plate. So, what are the challenges in this agriculture value chain? If you see from input to production and harvesting, and then food processing to packaging and retail, we can see that if we talk about inputs and production, farming or harvesting, there is scarcity of resources, and then there is a lot of scope to improve the yield of the crop in this on the downstream of the value chain. Whereas if you see about once the crop is harvested, and then post harvest technology when it comes into picture, we see that there are too many intermediaries and there is lack of transparency and traceability, like from where the commodity is coming and what it is happening to it, to that commodity and how it was grown. So there is lot of there is not much of a transparency in this entire process, and then secondly there is a lot of high amount of food wastages which happen post harvest. So there is a lot of post harvest losses which happens in the value chain. We see that the trend is moving towards more towards fruits and vegetable and pulses. So, and then what are the challenges which agriculture has been facing? So, largely, agriculture sector has been facing challenges in terms of climate change, in terms of resource scarcity, then there is labor shortage, then market volatility is there, and then food wastages are there. So, for example, like for the climate change, we can see that because in the last couple of years, we have seen that there has been change in temperature and rainfall patterns, right? So because of a lot of rapid urbanization and all, whereas there is increased frequency of extreme weather events, which has led to spread of more pests and diseases probably. So this climate change is impacting negatively on agriculture practices or agriculture production. In coming times, this is going to be worsen as we see every now and then. Then there is a lot of resource scarcity, as I told earlier, that availability of land, water, and other natural resources are becoming increasingly limited. So the resources which are required for agriculture production is getting limited with passage of time. And then we can see there is immense shortages of labor. In case of most of the places, we see that the agricultural laborers are not available at the time when they are actually required. Secondly, agriculture is not seen as an attractive career option for people. So we are seeing that the less and less number of people are actually inclined towards practicing agriculture as a career or adopting agriculture and even going to the farm to work for agriculture, right? And there are a lot of other options available. So probably when actually the laborers are required to work on the field, there is a shortage. Similarly, if we see in case of market volatility, so we see that the prices of agriculture products are very volatile, and it becomes very difficult for farmers to actually decide or plan and how to invest in their businesses. because in the one season when there is scarcity, the prices move very high. Whereas in the next season, when farmer thinks that last year the production was less and the prices were much higher, so normally a lot of these farmers will practice the same crop next season. And what happens in the next season? There is a glut in the market. So probably the forecast is not correct, or maybe because of this uneven trend in production, supply, demand, etc. We see that there is a lot of volatility in the market. So this is another kind of a challenge which the farmer has to face, and he's unable to decide, right? So which crop to grow and when to grow and how much to grow. Similarly, if you see in the value chain, in case of post-harvest losses, we see that a lot of wastages are happening. According to one of the study which has been done by FAO, more than one third of all the food produced globally is either lost or wasted. So it means that it is not that we have to double the production. What is happening is that whatever we are producing is actually also not being utilized completely, or there is a lot of wastages in the value chain. If you talk about the economies overall, what is happening in that, in case of developed countries, the wastages happening uh, once the produce is processed, right, or once it is being consumed. Whereas in case of developing nations, what is happening is that there is a lot of wastages which is being observed when before processing, or on the field, or post harvest losses. So on the one side, there is a lot of losses which is happening in the post harvest losses are there. On the other side, there are losses or wastages which is happening on the plate in case of developing nations. So these are some of the challenges which probably agriculture is facing. So so what are the opportunities in this agriculture value chain? I just spoke about the challenges which are there. So when there are challenges, then the opportunity also comes into the picture. So if we see, we can see that we can unlock a large opportunity through digital and analytics, right? So because of this lot of digital technology and the big data which is available, we can actually unlock a lot of this opportunity. We can have there is a lot of offerings for agriculture financing and crop insurance to strengthen the entire ecosystem. Whereas if we talk about the food processing, packaging, and the retail side, there is a lot of opportunity to establish market linkages between farmers and the buyers. We see that there is an opportunity to invest in the growing demand of supply chain and cold chain network and cold storages, infrastructure, warehousing, etc. There is a lot of opportunity to invest in fruits and vegetables and pulses to meet demand. So we can see that because of these challenges in the value chain, there are a lot of opportunities as well, which is there in the value chain. Now the question comes like, why agriculture technology or agtech or digital agriculture solutions? So we see that agriculture in India continues to battle the challenges of a low farmer income and declining productivity. Whereas what I believe is that technology can be a game changer in this entire scenario, because research and technology can play actually a very big role in this scenario. We have seen that Indian agriculture has grown by more than 3.4% when economy contracted by 24% during pandemic. About one quarter of greenhouse gas emission is due to how we farm and how we use our land. If we include the emission from processing, transport, storage, cooling, etc., this figure is more than 40%. Agriculture or agri-tech, particularly the digital solutions, can actually help to address a lot of these issues. So agriculture can be actually transformed from precision agriculture, right use of right mix of various kind of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, machine learning, blockchain, robotics, big data, temperature and moisture sensors, IoT, aerial images, GPS technology, drones. So there are a lot of technologies which are available currently, and with the help of these technologies, we can actually transform the agriculture how it is being done. So as I was telling you about agriculture technology, so what is agtech? So agtech refers to the use of technology to develop innovative solutions to improve the efficiency sustainability and productivity of agriculture. Uh, so as I told you that this can be precision agriculture, biotechnology, automation, etc., and various software and supply chain management software. So these are the tools which are there, which are actually referred to as agriculture technology. So as I was mentioning, like how this AgTech is going to unlock the potential of agriculture value chain. So, for example, if I talk about precision agriculture, so what do we mean by precision agriculture? So, precision agriculture actually involves data and technology to analyze and manage crops more precisely. So, we can actually make better use of resources available, which can lead to higher crop yield and reduce cost. So, for example, if you use with the help of GPS and mapping technology, can be used to create more precise planting and harvesting plans. Whereas with the help of sensors and drones can provide the real-time data on crop health and solution and soil condition. So with the help of these kind of information, we can exactly do and precisely practice agriculture, which can actually which can help us in using the resources more effectively, and we can do the agriculture sustainably with lesser impact on environment, lesser impact on soil health, etc. Similarly, if I talk about biotechnology, which is again another kind of agriculture technology, we can say, and this biotechnology uses genetic engineering to improve crop yields, resistance to pests and diseases. This can lead to more productive, resilient crops. So, with the help of technology, we can find newer varieties which can be more resistant to various pests and diseases. Then there can be high yielding varieties, resilient crops in the current scenario of climate change which is happening. So, biotechnology can play a very critical role. As I was mentioning earlier, like the one of the major challenges is like shortages of labor. So where we can clearly see that with the help of automation and robotics can actually help to reduce the labor costs. On the one side, this can reduce the dependency upon the labor availability and cost. Secondly, it can increase the efficiency, particularly in the places where there is acute shortage of labor and skilled labor. So these robots can actually do precisely the task which is defined, and with the help of high resolution cameras, etc. So they can do the tasks such as planting, they can do weeding and harvesting. Whereas if we think about like robotics and whereas if we talk about drones, so these drones can actually be used to monitor crops and livestock. If we talk about India as of now, with the current policy which changes which has happened by government of India as far as drone policy is concerned, and the thrust which has been given by the government to promote drone, and there are a lot of subsidies which is being provided to FPOs and farmers and then research institutes, etc., to for the usage of drones. I see that there is a we will see in next 4 or 5 years that there will be a great change in the entire agriculture scenario, and how the agriculture is being practiced. So there is a lot of opportunity both in terms of automation as well as opportunity in terms of getting newer job creation in terms of drone pilots, etc. And then there is a lot of opportunity in terms of a better and effective use of resources and lesser use of water, etc. So this robotics, automation, and drone, etc., can play a very crucial role to unlock the potential of agriculture value chain. Similarly, if we talk about data analytics, so data analytics can help farmers and agribusinesses to make better decisions by providing the insights into the factors such as weather pattern, soil condition, market trend. So as we are able to capture more and more data on ground, with the help of this big data, we can actually do lot of precise we can draw a lot of precise inferences from these data. We can actually use them to effectively deploy resources in terms of planning, in terms of production, in terms of budgeting, and in terms of deploying resources, etc. So data analytics is going to be very crucial in coming days, and with the democratization of data, which we are talking of, maybe with the exchange and freely availability of a lot of data, which is currently available in various forms at various places. And once we are able to have access of this data, which is already there, a lot of data is already there, then probably the various startups or agri-tech companies, they will be able to actually make better decisions which can help the farmers. And secondly, with the use of a lot of technology, there is a lot of data which is being captured. So all these data can be utilized across verticals, across organizations, across different agencies for with the end benefit of like increasing the productivity and reducing the cost at the field level. Then supply chain management software as another tool for in terms of agriculture technology. The software can help to optimize the movement of goods and resources throughout the supply chain. It can reduce the waste and improve the efficiency. This can include tools such as inventory management, order tracking, and logistic optimization, etc. There are already a lot of companies who are there in working on this supply chain management software currently uh, globally, as well as there are a lot of companies in India as well who are actually creating software for supply chain management in agriculture sector. So when we are talking of the opportunities and then the challenges in agtech, so some of the challenges which I have tried to bring it over here is like cost, then adoption of these technologies, then infrastructure which is required, then data ownership and privacy, and then there are a lot of regulatory issues, and then equity. So if we talk about the cost of these technologies, so you see what happens is that when we talk about agtech solutions, there is a lot of investment which is required upfront, so which can be actually a barrier for adoption, or barrier for small and medium sized farmers, like especially in case of countries like India, where there are a lot of small and marginal farmers, so they cannot have their access to finance and may not be willing to take an additional loan or debt to actually use this kind of new technology. So we have to find out ways how we can reduce this cost, or how we can facilitate them in adopting these technologies. Then adoption, farmers are very actually hesitant to adopt new technologies if they are not familiar to them. So we because they don't understand the benefit which they are going to give, which they are going to get. Similarly, the third issue can be infrastructure, right? So for any agriculture technology to be deployed, we need a lot of infrastructure is required. Like for example, if you see, you need better data connectivity. There has to be internet connectivity, and then infrastructure is required, which has to be available in the remote and rural areas where many farmers operate. So, for example, if you talk about a country like India, so probably we have got in last couple of years we have seen that access of data and access of net connectivity has improved drastically, which has actually helped in various startups and agri-tech companies to offer their solution to at the field level. But if we see in the deep pockets of rural areas, there is still a lot of farmers are there who don't have access to these technologies. They don't have access to smartphones. Then probably they don't even have awareness of this technologies to them. And as I told you about the cost which is involved in it, and then adoption. So these are some of the challenges and limitations. We have technology but then it is limited because of unavailability of uh, proper bandwidth of data, in internet, etc., or maybe infrastructure. Similarly, data ownership and privacy. What happens is that when we go and deploy these kind of technology, then there is a lot of data which is generated or captured in this process. Large amount of data is there, but the major concern is that who is going to own this data, and how this data is going to be used, and and how it is going to be protected from breaches or misuse. So for example, like when we work with let's say we are working with millions of farmers, and there is a lot of data in terms of their land record, in terms of their mobile numbers, and then in terms of like how much acreages they have got, what crops they are growing, and a lot of other demographic data might also be available in this process. So there can be a chance that these data uh, can be misused at some point of time. So then this concern is there, that are we going to how we are going to protect this data ownership and who is going to own that data. Similarly, as I was speaking about, like when we talk about like introduction of new agriculture technologies, then obviously we need a lot of manpower or resources to use those technologies. There are a lot of agri-tech solutions which are very highly specialized and which require a lot of skill sets. So skilling and training of masses for to operate and use these technologies effectively is also a point, an area of concern. Let me give you a very small example. Like for example, that we are saying that in country like India, where government is trying to promote adoption of drones. So now the next very big question will come is like to operate these drones, we will be requiring pilots to actually who are skilled to operate these drones. So this is again another area of opportunity, as well as this is another area of challenges. So how we have to train, or we have to come up with lot number of institutions who can actually offer these skilling and training to the resources. Then there are regulatory issues. Some AgTech solutions may face regulatory hurdles related to intellectual properties, data privacy, and environment impact, etc. Equity may be a concern that active solution may further widen the gap between large scale and small scale farmer, or between the farmers in the developed and developing countries. So maybe there may be a lot of gap which can further increase because of developing countries may have a lot of technologies where they can produce more with the less resources, whereas in case of developing nations, the farmers are unable to grow more with, or maybe the cost of production may go up. So what will happen that they will become unviable. Their products produced will become uh, they will become uncompetitive in the international market because of the cost. So maybe they will not be able to compete with the prices which is being offered by the growers of developed nations. So government has to see how they can protect the interests of the farmers and how this gap can be reduced. These are some of the challenges and limitations. So as I already told you that the potential ways to address, I've tried to jot down like how we can actually address some of these challenges. So maybe, for example, if you say that the cost of these technologies is high, so maybe there has to be grants and to help farmers, or maybe agribusinesses have to invest in agtech solution. Then probably there may be a lot of not-for-profit organizations and government and private sector who can partner and work together to create funding mechanism that can reduce the financial burden of adopting new technologies. Similarly, if we talk about the adoption of these technologies, then we need to create an ecosystem, and greater education and awareness has to be created about the benefit of agriculture technology. On the infrastructure fund, probably the government and private sector have to partner and work together to invest in the necessary infrastructure. We have seen that a lot of budget has been allocated in this budget as well by the government in terms of like creating accelerator fund for agtech startups, etc. So which might help to create much more infrastructure in the coming times. Then like agriculture infrastructure fund has been created by the government to promote infrastructure development in case of agriculture. If we talk about data ownership and privacy, then these are some concerns where government, private sector partners, and civil society organizations can actually work together to develop a clear policies and guidelines to have the data privacy and ownership rights. Whereas if you talk about skills and training, then government and academic institutions and private sector can partner and work together for developing training programs and other capacity building initiatives. We have been like government has already been allocating a lot of funds in terms of for capacity building, etc. If we talk about like in the current policy of like central government scheme of promoting 10,000 FPOs, where a lot of investment, a lot of fund has been allocated for capacity building program. Similarly, I believe that there is a strong need, and there is a lot of possibility of promoting various institutions who can actually work in skilling of people to work in rural areas and to learn about the new technologies both in on the ground at the field level for at the farmer level, as well as at the institution level or at the agriculture universities and colleges level as well, for the passing out graduates who are coming out of the graduate agriculture programs and postgraduate program, who can also further be skilled to learn more new skills. Or maybe we have to invest in train the trainer kind of a program where we can develop the trainers who can further train the larger masses. In terms of regulatory issues, government can work with private sector to develop a regulatory framework that enables innovation in agtech while protecting public health. Similarly, in case of for equity, we have to ensure that access solutions are inclusive and equitable. There needs to be greater engagement with small scale and subsistence farmers, women, and other marginalized groups. Coming back to like what is the current scenario, and we, as I was speaking, like there are a lot of companies who are actually involved in a lot of agri tech segment. So some of the segments are like IoT powered agriculture and drones. So these are some of the companies who are there who are working in IoT powered agriculture and drones. If we talk about marketplace, then there are companies like Dehat, Nizakart, and Beachek, etc. If we talk about farm inputs, so Dehat is again there. So then precision farming and farm management, we can see Cropin is there. Then farm ERP is there. Agnes, Bharat Agri. So what I mean to say here is that you can see that there are already lot of startups who have been there working very actively in offering solutions for a lot of these value chain challenges. And moving forward, we will see there will be a lot of newer startups who will be coming and working in this direction. And so AgTech is going to be the way out to address this issue of like feeding the growing population sustainably and with lesser impact on environment. So this is all which I wanted to say today. So if you see like there this is a simple map where we can see that how many number of companies are there in various segments. So, for example, like in case of marketplaces, there are more than 400 to 500 companies. If we talk about farm input, like 250 to 300 companies are there. So, this chart shows you the growing segment within agri-tech in India. Probably this number is for data is till to 2020. There has lot of changes and investment which has already flown in, which I showed you in my earlier slides, right? So this clearly depicts the immense possibility and potential of agri-tech in India, and whereas globally you have already seen like the market size of like somewhere around 40 billion US dollars in coming 2020, 2030. So, so this was all which I wanted to which I wanted to share with you all. Maybe
Thank you so much, sir, for this wonderful insight. The lecture was actually really redefining. I would request if we can take a few questions now.
yeah, sure. So maybe I can take some of the question from the chat box,
Yes,
right?
sir.
So
Okay, so I'll read out the questions.
yeah,
That
yeah,
will
you
be
can
better.
do that,
Yeah.
and maybe I will try to address some of these questions.
Yes. Okay, so the question is from Satya C. Thomas. The question is, if I want to start a startup in agtech, should I employ engineers who are into digital and analytics directly, or should I outsource these resources for my startup?
So you see, I, mm, I am not sure like uh, what is the background of Satya and from where he's coming, but definitely, and then what solution he's going to offer and what idea he's got in his mind. But probably for any entrepreneur who wants to set up a startup, maybe he has to have some understanding of that sector. And secondly, it is not always necessary that he has to be from technical background. We have seen there has been a lot of successful startups where the founders were not even aware of like what technology is all about. But then sometimes it helps if you are actually having an understanding of technology in the sense like there have been startup founders who were eventually in the early days of the career of their company, they were writing the code themselves and offering solutions. But there have been a lot of founders who have no idea of technology, right? So for the one classic example is like Alibaba, where Jack Ma was not having any idea of technology, and then he went on to create one of the largest e-commerce platform globally, right? Then there are examples of companies like Microsoft and Apple and Google, etc., where the founders were actually writing the code themselves and writing the programs, and eventually later on they moved to this to someone else in the team. Uh, so it again depends like how you what is the requirement. You may acquire talent, you may acquire people, but then there has to be some area where you will be having a command as a founder. Right. So you may be having a command over agriculture, and then you may find a technology team who can help you out. Then you may have some idea where you want people to implement your idea. Then there may be some idea where you yourself are going to implement that, and then you are looking for team to take care of the rest of the things. So there is no one single solution for setting up a startup. It all depends like what is actually your vision, but as a founder, you have to have a clear-cut objective. What you actually want to deliver and what solution you are going to offer to the customers, and whether there is a need for that or not, and how you are going to address it. This is more critical and important than whether you are going to do it yourself. If you are going to do it yourself, better nothing like that. But eventually, you will be requiring people to solve those issues and to handle those problems, and you have to do the larger things within the organization.
Good
Right,
evening,
sir.
sir.
So maybe I
Hello,
can
sir.
have a question.
Hello, sir. Good evening, sir.
Yeah, good evening.
Sir, like, am I like I'm currently studying MSc Agronomy. Like I'm in my last year. So, any possibility that I can join your company as like intern or something like that? Like, since I'm from agronomy, so is it possible to work under your company? Like, any way to reach your company?
We have you can reach out to our organization with your resume and all, and maybe we keep on getting positions for the interns, and for if you are a fresher, maybe we can hire you as an intern, and if you have actually got some experience, then we can even look for it. Only thing is that you can apply, and then probably there is a process for it. So yes, we definitely hire agronomists, and we have agronomists in our team.
And what about the like status of your company in Nordic side, sir?
Sorry.
Like, is it नॉरिश साइड में आपका कंपनी का जो स्कोप है थोड़ा सा कवर होता है मार्केट मार्केट का कैपेसिटी कितना है नॉरिश तरफ नॉरिश ऑफ इंडिया
I am not able to. I am not able to understand or grab what is your question. Can you reframe your question?
मीन्स लाइक what is the current scenario of your company like in especially in northeast part of India?
Northeast.
Yes, sir. Since like
We are
farming
we are having some projects in Northeast in Assam. Rest of the
okay
places we are not there as of now. But maybe we are growing and expanding. So maybe in near future we may come.
okay thank you, sir.
Hello,
Yeah.
Dr. Dinesh. I'm Mayank from Rajkot, Gujarat. We are into agronomy services, and we ourselves are producing farm produce. So, as you mentioned for the data analytics, I wanted to know, is there currently any website or any center which shares data particularly for reason of crop production, leaving the personal data separate? Like we are doing cucumber, we are doing tomato. So, is there any particular website or center we can provide perfect data? Like you can at this
Statistics
stage
will
you
give
need
you
to
the
do this
data.
and that. Yes.
Statistics will give you the data, and Department of Agriculture will give you the data.
Those are not. We have tried to contact the universities and all, but the data is not that ensuring. Currently to the current state of the environment and everything. Those data are all very old.
No, every year the data is being published.
Hmm?
Every year there is data being published by the department. So I
Can you
don't
can
think
you
that this is
suggest
a very
can
old.
you suggest where I
The
can
data can be 1
get
year
the
old,
data?
not more than that.
Hmm?
I don't think the data is very old. Every year we get the production data and the acreages data in every department. It is only that whether you are going to get that access of that data or not. And then there are data which is being published by the state government. Then there is data which is being published by the central government, central ministry as well. So you have to dig out from various departments. So you may not find it at one place. So maybe you have to collate also sometimes.
Okay.
Statistics
Okay.
department data is always there, right? So the only thing is that if you need it in a soft form, so there might be difficulty in getting that, but overall that data is there.
Okay.
To
So it's
fumi-
not easily accessible.
Easily, again it depends which state we are talking of and which department we are talking of, right? Some states it
No,
may be,
my
some
core
districts.
concern is just for the production part currently, because if we have
हाँ, तो
good produce,
प्रोडक्शन का
then
मिलता है
only
ना
the
डेटा, वो
value chain
पूरा
will
डेटा
come.
रहता है ना आपका. आप जाएंगे एग्रीकल्चर डिपार्टमेंट में तो डेटा मिलेगा आपको, हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट में आपको मिलेगा डेटा ऑफ प्रोडक्शन भी मिलेगा, डेटा ऑफ एकरेज भी मिलेगा, डेटा ऑफ अराइवल
Okay.
भी मिलेगा, सारा डेटा रहता है सर.
Okay. Okay.
I have
Thank you.
collected myself those data in, especially in case of Gujarat, and I am talking of
Okay.
let's say 20 years back. So I am sure that currently the situation will be far better. Maybe there may be challenges in the accuracy at times, but data is very much
Okay.
there.
Okay.
As I told you, na, the sanctity of that data becomes a challenge. So maybe
Yes.
there are other organizations, private institutes, or private companies who have got satellite data, but you have to pay for it.
Okay.
Thank you so much, sir, for answering all the questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We also thank you for being with us today, sir. Really thank you.
Thank you.
Moving ahead, innovation via technology and digitalization have seen as pragmatic solutions to help address some of the greatest challenges facing the global food system. Food demand is increasing. Suppliers are seeking greater distributions and access to regional or global supply chain. Customers are asking for food traceability, greater price transparency, as well as faster round-the-clock access to information. New digital platforms have emerged in an attempt to address these market needs. Thus, the world is learning on agribusiness marketplaces, and the best can be told to us by industry experts. Mr. Kedar Deshpande, Chief Operating Officer, National E-Repository Limited, NERL, a subsidiary of NCTEX. With this idea, I would like to welcome Mr. Kedar Deshpande, Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer, National E-Repository Limited. So, has rich experience of 19 plus years in retail and commercial banking, having expertise and knowledge in agribusiness initiatives, business development, and product management. He was leading as Indian head, agriculture banking with Standard Chartered Bank, and was responsible for business strategy, regulatory interactions with RBI, strategizing products, processes, and distribution for smooth operations, and building systems and processes for business enhancements. With such an eminent personality on the platform, I won't waste any more time and invite Mr. Kedar Deshpande to interact with our participants.
Hello, everybody. I'm audible.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. Thanks for Agmatrix for giving me this opportunity. I will straight away go with my slides. So the slides are basically part of the three sections. One is that what is NERL, that is a National E-Repository Limited. Then what is the concept? Basically, what concept we want to sell, that is the second thing. And then the regulation and the rules and to do the business. So it is three parts. And then what the benefit you will get it, the depositors and the participant, how they are going to get the benefit. So straight away, I will share the slide and one by one, I will start discussion. During the discussion, if you have any query, please let me know. So I will address that queries also. Done. So I'm sharing my slide. Just confirm that whether you are able to see it or not.
Yes, sir, it's visible.
Great. So I'll go to the next slide. Okay. So this NERL is a nationally repository limited. The repository concept is a new in the country. I will give you some background to it. As we are going now from shortage to surplus, because we have done a good job in production side, and there are a lot of innovations are happening in the production side in terms of yield, in terms of quality, in terms of varieties and everything. But somewhere we are lacking to create the markets. And when I'm talking about the market is, we always talk about the farm to fork. But when saying to farm to fork, ultimately you need one more very important aspect comes is the storage. So this now the session we are going to talk about the storage. So repository is a repository of electronic negotiable warehouse receipts. Okay, so this is a repository of electronic negotiable warehouse receipt. The NERL is having that digital platform. It is a regulated platform. We are regulated by Warehousing Development Regulatory Authority, WDRA, and the promoter is NCDS. They are owning the 67% stake. And other investors, if you look at, is ICICI Bank. They hold a 10%, SBI hold a 10%, and NABARD hold a 13%. So we are got a certificate, or we are got a accreditation from the WDR in September 2017. After that, we created a digital platform of electronic negotiable warehouse receipt. And if you look at what we have done in last 3 years, we are there in a market from last 3 years. So we have issued more than 489,000 ENWRs. We have managed more than 45 lakh metric ton commodities. We are working in more than 800 warehouses. And the total customers are with us is 7,400. Our presence is more than 16 states. We have done more than 1,600 awareness program in every pan-India in 16 states. And we are associated with the 43 entities from who we do the awareness program. Now I will come to the concept. So this concept is basically, we are having the warehousing ecosystem since last 100 years. And when I'm talking about the warehousing ecosystem, mainly it is a storage activities. So what generally happen that the producer, like a farmer or a trader or a processor, when get the produce, he store it, and whenever he get the right price, he sell it to the end user, maybe a processor. But all these three entities need a warehouse to store. So ultimately, if you look at in last 100 years, all these three entities we called as a agri value chain or agri participant or whatever, they store the produce, and whenever they get the opportunity, they sell it. And but for that, they need a storage activity. As now we are going from a shortage to surplus, the government have realized that the warehouses, rather than the storage, we have to convert them into the marketplace. When I'm saying the marketplace is their place where the finance is available and the trading is also available. So the government have realized, as we are going from a shortage to surplus, we will create the warehouses as a, rather than the storage, we will convert them into the marketplace. But when you are saying that we want to convert them into a marketplace, you need a good regulation. We need somebody who can look after this, the transaction. We can look after the processes, the technology platform, and everything. So the government have created the WDRA, which is a warehousing development authority. And this warehousing development authority is, the act is passed by the parliament, and the regulator is formed to regulate the warehouses in the country. Now, how this ecosystem works? The warehouse get registered with the WDRA on the basis of two aspects. One is the infrastructure facility in the warehouse. There is norms, there are specific norms. And the second is the financial strength of the warehouse. When I'm saying the financial strength of the warehouse, it is a warehouse owner. So if both are matching, it is an online registration, and on the basis of that, WDRA do the registration. While doing the registration, WDRA do the physical verification of the warehouse also, because the infrastructure norms cannot be just approved by the documentation. So there is an inspection happen, and on the inspection, the warehouse get registered. That is the one aspect. Now, once the warehouses get registered, this all the material or the produce which is coming into the warehouse need to be come into the regulatory platform. That's what we call as a warehouse receipt on a regulatory platform, that is a NERL's repository platform. So this platform jointly developed by the NERL and the TCS. So TCS, our technology partner. So once the warehouse is registered, the warehouseman, whenever get the produce, he create the receipt on that. That is a deposit quantity. As create the quality. So he verify the produce which have come into the warehouse. He verify the quality of the produce on. There are two methods. One is the physical appearance of the goods, and he will see the color, the odor, right? And plus, if he require, as per the WDRA norms, ultimately he do the chemical test also, and then he put the quality into the ENWR. Now, the repository is a similar like the depository what they work in the stock market. Like, if you must be knowing that, because everybody now today, all the people are having the investment in the stock market. So for investing into the stock market, you have to have a demat account. So what you do, you open a demat account with the depositories, and then you buy the shares in your demat account. So similar, the concept is here. You open a remat account, and in a remat account, you give that remat account number to the warehouse, and warehouse then create a deposit, as they create the quality, and the receipt is generated in your account. And whenever you get into the login into the online portal, you can see this receipt in your account. This much of receipt is this much of quantity, and this is the quality is available. So that is exactly the repository system. The way you transfer the money from your saving account, similarly you can transfer this receipt. Whenever the way you take the loan against the shares, similarly you can take the loan against this ENWRs from a bank. If you want to sell this ENWR, you can sell it in the spot platforms or electronic platforms, or you can sell it into the exchange. Okay, so this is the overall the repository system. I'll go to the next slide. So what is the difference between the physical receipt and ENWR? Because we have two systems, as I said. Age-old system is a physical receipt system, and the new system is a ENWR system. So both systems are working in the country. So what is the difference between the physical receipt and the ENWR? Now, the physical receipt, you cannot, if you want to do the transaction with the physical receipt, you can't do a transfer. You have to withdraw. Then ultimately the warehouseman, the buyer has to give the details to the warehouseman, and then warehouseman issue the physical receipt. In ENWR, you can just complete with a transfer. Physical receipt cannot be split. If you have 100 metric ton of material, you cannot sell the 10 metric ton out of that 100 metric ton. But in ENWR, you can sell that. Plus, the physical receipt is prone to the losses, mutilation, tampering, and all. ENWR, it is not, because it's completely digitized and it is in a secured environment. Nobody can see your receipt other than you. Ultimately, you have the login ID, you have the password, and you can only see the receipt, right? So it is a confidentiality is already it's intact. The main is that the physical receipts, there is no regulation. Now, physical receipts are issued under the State Warehousing Act, but to regulate the State Warehousing Act, there is no regulator. Act is there, but there is no regulator. When I'm saying that there is no regulator, so I will just give you an example. We have a banking act, and we have the regulator like Reserve Bank of India. Or we have a security act, and for that we have a SEBI as a regulator to regulate the act. So similarly, State Warehousing Act is there, but there is no regulator. But in a WDRA, which is a central act means I'm talking about, it's a central government act, and we have absolutely a authority or regulator to regulate this ENWR. In a physical receipt, again, the assaying is not there. So quality is not considered as a priority. But ENWR, without mentioning the quality, you cannot issue the ENWR. In as a physical receipt, you can consider any kind of a stock, but ENWR, it has to be AGMA qualified. When I'm saying AGMA qualified, that what the government want to do it, they want to create a very homogeneous environment where ultimately warehouse can become a marketplace. Any type of warehouse cannot get registered in a WDRA because, as I mentioned, there is a clear-cut infrastructure and the financial norms are there. Why it is created? Because the government want to create a very clear-cut homogeneous environment of the warehouses, homogeneous environment of the goods stored, so the trade can happen easily. So the goods which can come into the prior registered warehouses and they can get the ENWR subject to only the AGMA qualified goods. In a physical receipt, again, there is no monitoring and surveillance. In the ENWR, there is a surveillance and monitoring by the WDRA. In again a litigation, the higher litigation is there in a non-regulated warehouses because ultimately you have to get into the police station, then you have to get into the district magistrate and all. Here the WDRA itself is an appellate authority and they have the redressal mechanism. So ultimately there is no need to get into that kind of local level issues or something. You can directly deal with a WDRA and WDRA can solve that the grievances or the complaint. So now ultimately come to the what is the current system and how the WDR ecosystem is overcoming from that. If you want to take a loan into non-ENWR receipt, that is a physical receipt or a electronic receipt also, because some warehouses issue the electronic receipt, but it is actually a non-ENWR. There the bank always insists that it has to be authenticated or validated by the collateral manager. Because banks don't have the comfort with the warehouse. Banks don't want to deal directly with the warehouse because warehouses are not regulated. Because in a non-ENWR ecosystem, the warehouses are not regulated, they are not monitored, they are not audited. So bank always insists that ultimately I need a collateral manager who can give me the confirmation about the warehouse, about the goods, about the customer, then only I can do a finance. But in ENWR, as WDR is there, that overlap is out. You don't need a collateral manager. But WDRA have given an option to the banks in a registered warehouse if they require, because there is a high value goods are stored, and if they require, they can appoint the collateral manager. But prima facie, that collateral manager is not required because already it is monitored, audited, and certified by the WDRA. So this is basically the limitation into the non-ENWR and the ENWR. ENWR is far superior because there is no need to have overlap structure. It is a more digital platform. The ease of doing business is there, convenience is there, and turnaround time is much faster because the banks, there is no need to verify the goods. They can just come onto the digital platform and they can just give immediately they can give the loan to the depositor. So what are the WDRA prescribed framework? So as I mentioned, ultimately there is an act. The second is the warehouses can do the online application. The WDRA verifies the ownership and effective control. When I'm saying the ownership and effective control, the warehouse owner, whether this warehouse is actually controlled or owned by the warehouse owner, who is actually the owner of this warehouse. And the second is that then effective control, the WDRA have a clear-cut rules and the guidelines, which kind of a commodity can come into the warehouse, what should be the shelf life of the commodity, what are the inspection is required, fumigation kitne baar hona chahiye, scientific storage kaise hona chahiye. All this effective control are prescribed and the warehouses should follow that prescription or the guideline. This is second is that the warehouse that, as I said, it is a standard operating procedures are there, and the know your depositor warehouse, whenever he's taking the goods, he should take the details of the person who is depositing, because in warehousing, as you know, the depositor and the owner, both are different. Depositor can be local trader, depositor can be local commission agent, or it can be a farmer who is depositing on behalf of beneficiary who's sitting maybe in a Mumbai or Delhi or Hyderabad or any town. So ultimately, the person who's bringing the deposit to the warehouse on behalf of somebody, that also has to be registered. So the warehouse owner and the repository or a WDRA knows that who have brought this material or on behalf of whom. Both are recorded. Then there is a very clear-cut network criteria there, as I mentioned, financial criteria and the infrastructure requirement. Second is the regulation on the ENWR. So there are very clear-cut prescribed rule on ENWR, how to issue the ENWR, whom to issue ENWR, how to open a remat account, then how to convert the paper-based receipt into the ENWR, how to transfer the ENWR after the completion of the trade, what the process you should follow to transfer the ENWR to the right buyer. Then pledge of ENWR, how the banks can come on the platform and can do the pledge of ENWR. And if in case there is a kind of errors or errors happen, how to rectify the errors. So all this is regulated by the WDRA. So now ultimately come to again the same prescribed framework. This is a continuation. Then what the WDRA is more detailing what we have discussed in the last slide. So there is a fit and proper criteria to identify whether the WSP and its key manager person is worthy of public warehousing business. That is the first criteria. Then this is the minimum criteria. The minimum net worth criteria is that 5 crore net worth is required for any warehouse which is having a more than 10,000 metric ton. Then standard operating procedures there. The warehouse should follow the clear-cut the storage procedures. Then the inspection of warehouse, the effective control, what we have discussed, that you cannot issue the ENWR as per your wish. There is a clear-cut guidelines are there for the WDRA approved 145 commodities in the country. For all these 145 commodities, they have declared or they have published that what is the shelf life of that commodity and how many times you can issue the ENWR for that commodity. Physical inspection of the warehouse, the WDRA do the physical inspection of warehouse. The warehouse owner has to take the fidelity insurance and the maximum cap is kept for 20 crore. As I mentioned, grading of commodities, that is the AGMA, only the quality AGMA qualified goods should come to the warehouse. KYD we already discussed. So I'm going to the next slide. So safekeeping of commodities, the general obligation of warehouseman. So as per the Act, very clearly the quality and quantity is a complete responsibility of the warehouseman. And that is the difference between the State Warehousing Act and the WDRA Act. The State Warehousing Act have not created the complete role and responsibility of the warehouseman. And there are a lot of loopholes. And that's why whenever any kind of quality and quantity mismatches happen, ultimately then there is a land up into the dispute. The dispute may always the warehouse owner get some kind of a leeway. And that is been addressed in the WDRA Act, because WDRA Act is comparatively a very new act. All the State Warehousing Act are passed by the Legislative Assembly in 1970s or 1975 under the Central Warehousing Act. But after that, unfortunately, state governments have not amended their State Warehousing Act. And that's why the WDRA Act have come in 2007, passed by the Parliament. And again, this got amended in 2016. So the WDRA Act is comparatively new, and they have addressed all this electronic digital platform, negotiability of the receipt, transferability of the receipt, which is not there clearly described into the State Warehousing Act. Inspection of the commodities, we have mentioned that. Then the special inspection, any surprise inspection or something is allowed by the WDRA. The stock reconciliation declaration, the warehouse has to declare every 15 days what stock is controlling and what quality is managing for that stock. As I mentioned that the WDRA having the grievances redressal mechanism, it is online. They have a conciliation and arbitration mechanism, and the WDRA itself is an appellate authority. So any kind of irregularities and everything, WDRA can punish the depositor, can punish the warehouseman, and they have the authority. So in terms of offenses and penalties, they can put on the warehouseman or a depositor for any kind of a accident or eventuality. So we have mentioned that the benefits is that overlap structure, what we are talking about collateral manager, it is not required. But if the banks require that, they are allowed to do that because it's a bilateral arrangement between the banks and the warehouseman. Easy transfers and splitting of receipts, transparency of transactions. So audit trail is there from the deposit, that is KYD, to withdrawal. All the transactions are recorded and you get the complete audit trail of that. It is centralized record keeping. When I'm saying centralized record keeping, because it is a public domain information, WDRA being a regulator, it is a public domain information. The people can seek that information. Government of India can get the information, state governments can get it, all the large private players can get it, and then they can decide by knowing that what stock, what type of company, commodity, stock, and location, and on that basis they can decide their purchases and inventory management. Robust commodity warehouse and risk management, because it is completely controlled and regulated by WDRA. So this is far superior ecosystem than the non-WDRA ecosystem. Standardization of warehouses and commodity store, we have discussed that, and easy finance at lower interest rates. So what is the USP of the NERL repository? So as we have mentioned that it's a centralized digital record keeping, and the state government can get the informed, they can take an informed decision on the market intervention. So ultimately, we have an online reservation. The customer can do the online reservation if you want to book any kind of a space in the warehouse. Then there is a unique ENWR number. So why I'm saying that unique ENWR? Because that number will not get into any other ENWR. So it is very easy to identify. Plus the goods, clearly the warehouseman has to declare the grade, net weight, bags, weight, and stack number. So it is very easily to identify in which corner of the warehouse is your material. Tracing of original deposit, we have discussed that. We are managing the exchange deliveries also, so validity and matrix and everything is a part of the digital platform. We have an online customer access similar to a net banking. So customer can view, customer can do the transaction, customer can do everything online. So the reports and everything is there in online. So I'll go to the next slide. So who are the beneficiaries from this? One is definitely the farmer, the warehouse service provider, spot exchanges, spot platforms, exchanges, government, agri participants, and banks. So now we'll come to the depositor. What the depositor is going to benefit? One is that he will get the easy finance, turnaround time will be fast, plus ultimately he can do the partly transfer. He is going to get the standardized good. It is a homogeneous environment, so standardized good will not have too much of variation. Plus he if he want to sell it through exchange or a spot platform, it is a clearing, settlement, and delivery will be smooth. The transaction completely through a digitized platform, so it will be without any human intervention. And the best part is that today, if you look at in agriculture, generally the trade happen bilateral. When I'm saying the bilateral, is that the buyer and the seller knows each other. This is the opportunity. This is one more ecosystem where this we call the anonymous trade. Anonymous trade means the buyer don't know who is the seller and seller don't know who is the buyer. And that's what the market. What we are saying, the market, you go to any kind of a market, if you go to the Amazon, if you go to a Flipkart, or go to any kind of a exchange platform, actually the buyer and seller don't know each other. And that's why it is a great platform, because price discovery happen without knowing to each other, because there is no kind of a connivance or there is no kind of a conflict of interest. It is everything happened through a third party, and the trade is completed, the clearing and settlement completed, and the robust price discovery happen. Similarly, what is the benefit to the warehouseman? The warehouseman, because his warehouse will become a marketplace, and as the banks are giving a lower interest rate for the registered warehouses, that is attractive for the depositor, so he's getting more deposits. As it is a AgMark standardized goods, the grievances and the the dispute on the quality and quantity reduces, and the electronic, basically the transfer and pledge facility happen efficiently. So the occupancy level also improves. Financial institution, it is definitely they have two roles. One is they can become a pledgee or they can become a RP. Now I'll come to the RP concept. The way it is in a demat, why again I have to go to the parallel of stock market because people are more conversant with the stock market. In a stock market, if you know that you have a SEBI as a regulator, and then you have two depositors. One is the NSDL and second is the CDSM. Then you have a depository participant. So the banks, broking houses, and everybody is a depository participant. And then they manage the client. So we call as a three-tier structure: depository, depository participant, and client. Similarly here, the government have created the repositories. There are two repositories. One is the NERL and second is the CCRL. Then they have created a repository participant. So banks and the broking houses and the insurance agencies can become a repository participants, and then the clients. So the client will deal with a repository participant, and repository participant will deal with the repositories, and repositories will deal with the WDR as a regulator. So this is generally how the pledging process happens, because the 90% of the ENWR we issue is get financed. So so depositor open an account with the bank, account with the repository. Then he give the details to the warehouseman. Warehouseman create the ENWR. It goes to his account. He inform the bank. He give the account number. That is the remat account number. He give the ENWR number. Then the bank generate the request. Warehouseman confirm that he is having the goods and everything, and then banks complete the transaction. So this is the generally NERL process. Yeah, so I've completed more or less. Now I think there will be a lot of question. I know that because I've completed in just 25 to 30 minutes. Now we can actually go for a question and a question, so I can clarify your doubts. Yeah, go back to Bhupesh.
Right, sir. Thank you so much, sir, for this interactive session. And this was really embarking for our participants. And moving on to the questions, there are a few in the chat box. So we have a question from Ajay Singh. His question is, how can one get AGBA qualifications to work in warehouse?
So ultimately, if you look at go to the WDRA side, all the 145 commodities, the AGMAR quality parameters are mentioned. So whenever the warehouseman issue the ENWR and basically when the assayer do the quality inspection, he verifies the parameters, because AGMAR having the 4 grades: grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. So on the basis of the quality of the commodity, he mentioned the values, because at the end of the day, these grades are having the values. You have to mention that values, and then it's captured and nobody can change that. I hope I answered the question.
Right, sir. If anyone has questions, they can raise their hand. We'll allow them to speak also. So there's another question in the chat. Is it more accessible than ENAM?
I will tell you the ENAM, and okay, that's one more point which I missed it. Now, if you look at our APMCs, APMCs mainly work on the over-the-counter, right? Because that trade is over-the-counter trade. When I'm saying the over-the-counter trade means what? The farmer bring the produce. Ultimately, lots auction platform is there, and the lots are created. It is and then the boli happen, the auction happen, and the person who is giving the higher bid, he get that lot. So it is over the counter. Ultimately, if the price is weak, when I'm saying the price is weak means if the price is not good, still the farmer has to sell, because he cannot take the goods back because he already invested the money for transportation and the loading and unloading. This is one more option that you can do a trade through warehouse. So ultimately what the government want is that warehouse-based sale should also happen. So we are already connected to the ENAM. So if any farmer or the farmer want to participate through ENWR and want to sell in Mandi, he is allowed to do that, right? But mainly the ENAM works in the over-the-counter trade, not in the warehouse-based sale. Are you getting my point? Done.
Right, sir. So there's a question, how much investment is needed or any other technical support that we can receive from the government?
Regarding what?
So regarding, I guess it's warehouses, regarding
So
starting
you,
a warehouse.
so there is a scheme of Agri Infrastructure Fund, right? And where you can get a 2 crore interest subvention and the prompt repayment and everything. So up to 2 crore, there is a scheme. Anything about 2 crore, you have to, it is a commercial rate and everything. But it's up to 2 crore, you can get all the facilities of interest subvention and the prompt repayment and plus government guarantee. It is a credit guarantee given by the government to the bank. So that facility is available for to construct the warehouse.
Okay.
Agri Infrastructure Fund, आपने सुना रहेगा सबने, AIF. It is a 1 lakh crore fund where under that the warehouse construction is also available up to 2 crore. But that scheme is up to 2 crore. If your project is of 5 crore, आपको 2 crore तक facility मिलेगी, बाकी 3 crore तक आपको आगे का 3 crore के लिए facility नहीं मिलेगी. Yeah.
Right. Adding on to that question, sir, can private players also get financial help from the government to start?
Yeah, AIF में सबको allowed है वो.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's a question from Sagar Shinde. The question is, what are the opportunity in WTRA for agri graduates and how can they reach you?
Yeah, so Sagar, you can take down my email ID and you please reach out to me, right? So ultimately we will see that. Don't worry about it. Because we are growing ultimately, and if you are really interested and if you are having the ability, why we will not take you?
Right. So there's another question. Which body or who does the certification for warehouses, and any public domain where one can get and which are the accredited warehouses?
So ultimately, if you go to the WDRA site, every day the activated registered warehouses list is available. Every day it's get updated. And there are 10 agencies. These are all an institution. Like you have you must be knowing Pant University now. The Pant University is one of the accredited agencies. NABARD is one of the accredited agency. Then the Indian Food Council is an accredited agency. There are some 10 agencies are there who are accredited and who do the inspection of the warehouses at a regular interval.
Right. We have Vaibhav. Vaibhav, you can unmute and switch on your mic, please. If possible, can you please switch on your camera? Sorry for interrupting.
No, I'm not getting what he's saying.
Vaibhav, can you please repeat your question?
Yes.
So we'll ask. We have a question in the chat box. Let's do that.
Okay.
Sir, can you please turn on your camera as well, please?
Okay.
Yeah.
Done.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
So, sir, the question is how ENWR can accelerate agribusiness marketplace?
Okay. So the thing is that again, I will tell you today we have a majorly the over-the-counter, as I said, that in APMC market, right? And there is no other option. If you look at the agriculture marketing, is divided into the 3 markets. One is we call it the primary market, where ultimately the producer, that is the farmer, comes who do the over-the-counter trade and sell his commodity through APMC market, right? Market yard basically. The second, you have a secondary market where there is a bilateral trade between the trader, processor, FPOs and cooperatives. They generally sell it again to the trader or processor as a secondary market. And then the third market you have called the tertiary market, basically derivative, future and option derivative market. Now, the primary market, as I said, that is mainly over-the-counter market. But if you look at the secondary market and tertiary market, is basically warehouse-based sale. Is a warehouse has become a marketplace. So this ENWR is going to have the connectivity with all these three markets. So the whole of the vision is that the warehouses within the country who are scientifically constructed and managed, they will come into this WDR ambit. And through ENWR, the depositor can participate into the primary, secondary, and tertiary. That is the government's objective. And if you look at when we started the journey in 2019, hardly 300 warehouses was what? Less than 300 warehouses were registered. Today we are having more than 3,600 warehouses. So the registration is growing with something you can CAGR, that is a compounded average rate of growth is 30-35%. And overall, the activities are also going in that manner. Yeah.
Right, sir. This is a question from Rishi Raj, sir. The question is, what is the minimum land required for warehouses?
So it is, if you put it in this way, if it is a 5,000 metric ton warehouse, you need a minimum 30,000 square foot area. And then plus you need a fencing, you need a exit and entry, plus you need a fire extinguishers, you need a lorry station. Ultimately lorry should come and the loading and unloading can happen. And if it is a weight bridge is there within the premises, so it can add to your income. So more or less, if you can put it that if it is a 1 acre of land or 40 to 45 to 50,000 square feet area is enough to create a good warehouse.
Got that, sir. Another question, sir, from Mukesh. He's asking how NERL is contributing in risk mitigation.
So ultimately, that's what everything is recorded. This is a digital platform. Everything is recorded. You get audit trail and everything. And this is all the only the authorized user can come to the platform because everything is you have the login ID, you have a password, and you have a OTP authentication. So there is a rarely anybody can come and do any mischief. Plus the platform is approved by the Ministry of Information and Technology. We are basically cloud-based platform managed by the AWS, that is Amazon Web Services. So it is under TCS technology partner. So all the bodies or all the vendors are far superior. So there is a rare chances that any mishap can happen. But if you look at in last 3 years, whatever we have managed, 45 lakh metric ton deposits and worth of 16,000 crore, we hardly have seen any problem in that. Means if you look at the uptime of the platform is also, I think is 98-99%. And it is a 24/7 real-time online platform. So we have not seen any problem in that.
Right, sir, got that. And so the question is, in our country, FCI is also managing warehouses and storage of farm produce. So how is it related or connected to that?
Okay, so if you look at, there are two, again, when you talk about the storage, there are two aspects comes. One is the government procurement. Basically, the government procurement happen into the cereals, that is a wheat and the paddy, and then some kind of a pulses, right? So FCI is one of the agency under the NSFA, National Security Food Act. So they procure mainly the wheat and paddy because their mandate, the government mandate is to feed the citizens. So ultimately they will continue doing that. WDR is not talking about that. WDR is talking about the private place, right? Because government generally don't do a trade. Government do the auction. And mainly auction when they have a surplus good. Their main is to procure the goods and distribute through the PDS, that is a public distribution system. So that system will continue, and this system also will continue. Maybe over the period of time, this both may be merged when we'll actually become a high income level country, right? When the people will not depend on the PDS. So that time maybe this both ecosystem will merge. But as on date, it is not. because ultimately we need a PDS because we have a people, we have a poor, we are not that kind of, we are a developing country, we have a poverty, so we need to feed poor people, right? So both system will remain for a maybe near term.
Right. So I think that would help Deep answer the question. Our next question is, sir, from Indra Kumar. The question is, will ENWR has stored data unlike APMCs, which do not possess realistic data regarding quantity of produce and price over a period of time?
No, here it is very clearly when the goods come to the warehouseman has to punch the quantity, assayer has to punch the quality, and that remains throughout the life of ENWR. And as per the regulatory, we have to keep the storage of this transaction for the 7 to 8 years. Though the ENWR is extinguished, extinguishment expired, right? The material is gone from the warehouse, but still we have to keep that record for 7 to 8 years.
Right, sir. Just one last question, sir. Then we'll be done with the Q&A session. So the question is, when we sell the agriculture product from the warehouse, then who is responsible for carrying the cost of all the logistics transport from the warehouse to market, buyers or sellers?
So it is depend what the bilateral arrangement happen between the buyer and seller. So ultimately there is a norms. If the buyer want at warehouse level delivery, the delivery will happen at warehouse level. If the buyer say I need it at factory gate delivery, then automatically the price will come into that. So it depends what the buyer want, right? Generally, if you look at the trade happen today, it is at a warehouse level only. But in a future, what is saying that definitely the buyer will say, give me the delivery at factory gate. Then automatically delivery will happen at factory gate and the logistic loading, unloading cost will get added and then the trade will go through.
Right, sir. Right. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, guys. I thanks to all the participants there because they have listened me quietly and patiently. Thanks for it. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Now, I would like to request my team member Love who will introduce our next guest or speaker. Over to you, Love.
Thanks, Bhupesh. Just a minute. Yeah, thanks, Bhupesh. So now I would like to welcome Dr. Venu Margam, Vice President of Kalguri Digital Private Limited. Sir has a PhD from Purdue University, USA. Sir has experience in enabling digital technology for conversion, collaboration, and inclusion in the agri-food sector. Sir is here to speak on circular economy and scope in agriculture. So let's hear from expertise on this brimming topic. We welcome you, sir. Sir, you are on mute.
Good evening, all. Thank you for the introduction. I'm curious to know about the audience, like who are the participants and what is the composition that would really help.
Yeah, so we have all the industry experts, agri professionals. We have students from agri graduation level and MBA people as well. So it's a good amalgamation of our industry.
Okay, thank you so much for the introduction. And let me figure out how to share my screen. Give me a second, please.
Sure, sir.
Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, sir. It's visible, sir.
Okay, thank you. Let me know if there is any issues or not to interrupt.
Sure.
So I kind of made it very basic, but we can go into a discussion later on if needed. But because it's a very vast subject. I took few examples that would really help the audience. Okay. So before going in, again, you already introduced me, but again, I want to kind of emphasize why I chose this subject and why, despite me being in the digital agriculture industry sector, I really am passionate about circular economy, especially in agriculture. And my journey sort of gives a few indications of why I chose this subject. So I have a background in agriculture. I did my BSc in agriculture from Acharya Engineer and Agriculture University in Telangana. Subsequent to that, my passion towards insects led me to take masters in entomology and PhD in entomology. I did my masters from University of Kentucky and a PhD at Purdue University. And my subjects were mostly in molecular biology, physiology of insects, and genetics. Eventually, part of my program, I also learned, varying almost 10 to 15 insect species. And that later on provided me additional opportunities in my career. I'll explain that. And subsequent to my stint as a master's and PhD student and a graduate research assistant, I did my postdoc at Purdue University and PAUST, which is a premier institute in Saudi Arabia. And during my postdoc, again, I worked on diverse insects like palm weevils and cowpea pests, both in Africa as well as Saudi Arabia. In Africa, I worked in Nigeria, Niger, and Ghana. And later, I returned to India and started my career in industry as a research assistant in DuPont Pioneer, mainly working on insect traits, corn insect traits, working on insect resistance management and how to prolong the life cycle of a trait. So this again involved a lot of insect rearing, and subsequently in 2017, I got an opportunity to work with Aspire Food Group, which is a Canadian startup company that had facilities both in the US and Ghana. And I moved to Ghana to work on a new area, emerging area, which is insect proteins. Again, insect proteins will have a lot of relevance in circular economy, as I will be explaining in the subsequent slides. So this subsequent to this experience, again, I returned to India and worked with ICTSAT, also on a Purdue project which was related to hermetic storage of grains and digital agriculture areas as well, projects that involve digital agriculture in ICTSAT as well. And later on, I moved to development sector, working with Saigal Foundation as a principal lead for adaptive technologies, wherein I looked at technologies like biochar and new water use efficiency technologies. And currently, I am working with Kalgudi Digital Private Limited, mainly promoting digitization and exploiting the power of digitization for market linkages, as well as providing advisories to small and medium farmers. So going into the presentation, the problems galore, as I don't have to explain much, like the emerging problems and all the issues that are related to climate change, global warming, everything is related to the growing global population and the heavy use of resources. And the focus eventually now is more turning from food security towards nutritional security, because at least the assumption now is we are having food security, but again, what is the quality of food? What is the kind of nutrition that is available? And that is again leading us to more environmentally friendly, as well as conserving the nature practices that conserve nature, as well as biodiversity. Loss can be prevented through these measures. So eventually, the focus is on, again, reducing the waste and decreasing the pollution, which is again leading to all these issues like global warming and climate change, which directly or indirectly has impact on our food and nutritional security. So what is circular economy? Just to give some examples, like the base case is a linear economy, wherein We take things, we either make something out of it, we use, and then we dispose. And eventually it either goes into a landfill or goes to an incineration plant where it is burnt. And either the energy is used or it's wasted. So that's an example of linear economy. And when it comes to circular economy, basically the principle is to the 3 R's, which is reuse, recycle, and remake. Reduce, recycle, and reuse. So this is the circular economy model, and it can be applied to any sector. It might be electronics, it might be textiles, or it can be agriculture as well. So the core of the principle is getting the most of the resources we have by keeping them at their highest utility and value. And the 3 principles of circular economy are reducing the waste and pollution. 1 second, please. I need to adjust my screen. Okay, this is fine. Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Silence on the other side, so I'm not able to make it. So reducing the waste and pollution, then circulating the products and materials, and then ultimately regenerating the nature are the 3 principles of circular economy. And as you are all aware, in 2015, these Sustainable Development Goals were first scripted by the United Nations initiative. And the part of this, most of the goals, if you look at, are related to sustainability or nutrition, or ultimately reducing the resource use at the same time, not impacting the economy or health. So that's how the circular economy is linked to most of these sustainable development goals. And this is the famous butterfly diagram, which is developed by Ellen MacArthur Foundation to explain about circular economy. And if you look at the left side, there are renewable resources that come from through practices of agriculture, or other methods of like farming or collecting, including hunting and other things. So on the other side are non-renewable resources like minerals and metals and whatnot, all the things that we extract from the earth. So for both these, we need to minimize the systematic leakage and negative impacts of their use, and at the same time try to conserve or recycle. In case of renewables, now we are well aware of renewable energy using solar and other practices. And when it comes to minerals and metals, there are a lot of recycling plants throughout the world, wherein instead of sending everything to landfills, materials are being recycled. If you want to know more, you can always look at the Ellen MacArthur site for the circular economy and the concepts. It will be very useful because these are the areas that are emerging, and most of the startups will be in these areas. Like how best we can use our resources at the same time, conserve our ecosystem, and preserve the ecosystem services provided by nature. So when it comes to circular economy in agriculture, I put here a few examples or opportunities. Like carbon sequestration is one of the opportunity. As you all know, like stubble burning is a major issue now throughout, at least in North India, it's repeatedly in news. And a lot of startups, I don't know how many of you heard of Takachar and other startups that are are leading the way in dealing with these issues. But again, at individual farm level, also there are methods to deal with these issues. Again, soil health is becoming a major area where a lot of biologicals are being developed, a lot of technology is being developed, reducing the use of fertilizers or synthetic fertilizers, and more emphasis on using biological materials like coming from either cattle or poultry or other sectors. And fermentation is also a major technology that is emerging in terms of developing new products that are again beneficial to soil as well as beneficial to our ecosystem. So water use efficiency is another area, like how to best use water. And even I think Bangalore and other cities are now doing wastewater recycling and improving the quality of water, that is the urban wastewater, and then diverting it for agriculture. So crop residues are again linked. It can be linked to the crops carbon sequestration, where it can be converted into useful products like compost or biochar, and even some building materials. And most of you, I don't know how many of you here are from agriculture background, but integrated farming methodologies where row crops or horticulture crops are all integrated with poultry, cattle farming or dairy farming, as well as fish ponds in a small farm. This model has been successfully shown, wherein you can divert the waste streams from one sector to the other sector, like the waste from fish, or the water from the fish pond can be used as a fertilizer, and the poultry waste can go into the fish pond and can be used as a nutrient for the fish, in turn closing the whole loop of this nutrient recycling. And whatever comes from the crops can again be feed for these, either for the cattle or for the poultry. So these are the emerging models that you can see in these days, and where again, if you are looking for opportunities, or if you are planning to go for a startup and are looking for technologies, these are the areas where you should be looking at. And last but not least is upcycling or valorization of waste or byproducts. For example, if you take the example of mangoes, mango pulp industry, there's a lot of waste generated, like the peels, the pits, and all the peels and pits can in turn be converted into high value compounds. So I'll start with one example here, biochar. And as you see, the global biochar market is, there is tremendous scope in the next 10 years, wherein the CAGR is 15.35%. That means there's a very high growth rate in this sector of biochar, not only in case of not only for other purposes like electricity or forestry, or in case of agriculture, there's a tremendous scope for biochar, and a lot of research is also being done in India. ICAR is looking at it, and there are few startups that are coming up in this area. So why is biochar important? I have few points listed on the slide, like carbon sequestration. As I mentioned, the global warming is ultimately due to the increasing CO2 concentration in the air, and one way to mitigate this is to capture the carbon and then store it in the soil for long periods of time. And biochar is one of these ways to do it. And at the same time, biochar has other advantages, like it is very slow to decompose. It takes some hundreds to thousands of years, depending upon the quality of the biochar. And the highly porous nature of the biochar promotes beneficial biological activities, wherein soil microbiota population increases, which is again important for the nutrient recycling in the soil. As you all know, now the soils are considered almost losing life, because we are repeatedly using synthetic fertilizers, which kill most of the soil microbiota. And one way to get back life to soil is through biochar. And it in turn acts as a slow release nutrient media, and helps. You can also combat the problem of stubble burning, wherein the stubble or the biomass from crop residues can be converted into biochar. It's a very good amendment for improving or restoring soil health overall. I have a quick example, like if you look at online stores like Amazon, biochar, even though the production is quite simple and at industrial scale, you will need anaerobic burning equipment, but at local farm level as well, you have there are some conventional methods that can be used. I'll show a small example, and you can look at the cost of the biochar. I mean, production is not going to be very costly, but the product is quite valuable. Hope this slide makes the point. Here is one example where, this is one of the experiments we have done in ICRISAT. We have taken biomass from sorghum crop, as well as, after getting the seeds, you are left with the seed peel or palms. On the left, you see those pictures, and there's a simple low-cost biochar equipment that can be made locally. And this can be used for slow controlled burning, which is not totally anaerobic as required for biochar preparation, but to some extent this is anaerobic, and eventually you end up with this char. So the reason it is called biochar is normal charcoal doesn't have life in it. When you take the char or the charcoal and then activate it using biological waste. The biological waste can be any waste from cattle or poultry industry, or even on a local farm, you have so much animal waste coming from the dairy farming as well as poultry. So these can be used to charge the char. It's usually a few days of soaking it in these liquids, and then letting it and then using it on the farm. So there are established methods to do this. A lot of training activities are also going on by various organizations on making biochar at farm level and utilizing it for improving soil health. So this is one area that we should be looking at. The second area I would like to talk about is insect protein. Insect protein, again, in India, it's an emerging area in terms of feed. But if you look at other geographies like North America or the Middle East, as well as Southeast Asia and Africa, it's also used as a food or a delicacy. And this is one area I have worked during my short tenure in Ghana as part of Aspire Food Group, where we reared insects for food, basically palm weevils. I have a few pictures of that. So if you look at how fast this area is growing, I mean, compared to biochar, which is only 15%, again, 15% is quite high when you look at compound annual growth rates for any markets. Insect protein market is growing at the pace of 33.4%, which is very, very high. So there's a lot of tremendous potential in this area. And the reason being, not only it's useful as feed or food, but a lot of compounds can be extracted, which can be used in food, beverages, nutraceuticals, pharmaceuticals, personal care, and cosmetics. So this is one sector I would urge all of you to look at for opportunities. So this is an example of a low-cost mass multiplication method for palm weevils that I have worked on. So basically, we again took the circular economy model. Like countries like Ghana and Nigeria have a lot of tapioca waste. Cassava is also called as tapioca. I think most of you know what tapioca is. That is what you make the sago, the sabudana. I don't know how many of you are aware of it. So this cassava peels is a huge biological menace if it is left, outside. This can be used as a feed combined with coconut waste, like just the coconut husk, and a lot of brewery waste also. Fermentation results in alcohol production, but at the same time, there's a lot of grain that is that comes out as brew waste or brewery waste, which most of the time goes as feed for piggery and other areas, but otherwise it goes to landfills. So these three components and few other modifications, we were able to develop an industrial scale protocol where we were able to mass rear the palm weevil larvae which are consumed as food. Sorry, I have seen someone raising their hand.
Sir, we will take the Q&A in the end of the session.
Okay. Great. So when it comes to India, as I said, there's not much scope for insects as food because we consume a lot of vegetable proteins, and insects are not that popular as food. So, but there is a lot of scope for black soldier fly, and there are a lot of at least few startups that came into this area and are establishing their setups in India, wherein black soldier flies are being reared as feed for both aquaculture and poultry. So the advantage of black soldier flies are they are very easy to rear. They are neither pests or pathogens. So they are not. There's no nuisance issue with black soldier flies compared to house flies or other insects. And the feed for black soldier flies can be any biological waste coming from fruits and vegetable industries. It could be from meat industry, or even cattle and poultry waste can be used as feed for black soldier flies. So in terms of cost, it's very easy to set up at a small farm level as well as on an industrial scale as well. And it is the larvae are used as feed primarily because of their high protein content as well as oil content. Depending upon the quality of the feed that you give these larvae, the larval nutrient quality also varies. So this is emerging as a substitute for soy, which is again the soya markets fluctuate a lot, and the prices of soy also impact our meat costs. So any agriculture waste or agri-food waste can be used as feed for these larvae, and then the larvae can be in turn fed to both poultry or fisheries. So again, this is an emerging area that I would like you all to look at. And last example is valorization or upcycling, where there are established technologies or innovations that have come up, wherein from the agro-food waste streams, including the wastewater coming from processing plants of agro-food industries, amino acids can be extracted, fermented food products can be made, as well as now there is a leather which is artificial. I wouldn't say artificial leather, but leather basically made of fungal mycelia. A lot of startups in Europe and North America are developing products from food waste, wherein the mycelial mat actually acts as a leather. Again, and further, there's a lot of scope to extract nutraceuticals from these waste streams. Again, as I gave an example of animal feed, like using black soldier flies, these wastes can be converted into high-value animal feed. In addition to these, other industrial compounds and fuels can also be produced from these waste streams. And in case of agriculture, a lot of technologies indigenously have been developed, wherein you can actually make plant growth promoters or biostimulants from these waste streams. In addition, there are now products in the market which can be used as cleaning agents. Again, basically from fields of fruits and vegetables. So I would like to conclude this with these three conclusions. Again, circular economy and associated sectors are emerging as key areas. These are vital for sustainability and achieving the sustainable development goals. Again, the future of our generations depend upon these, adopting these technologies, developing these technologies, and creating more opportunities in these areas. So I would urge again, I'm sure there are a lot of youth here in this presentation who are eager to look at new sectors and also looking for opportunities, as well as start looking at opportunities to even start their own industry. Thank you for the opportunity, and I would like to take any questions.
Thank you so much, sir. So I'll quickly jump to the Q&A, and we have one question in the chat box. How cultivate the larva or a poultry feed? It is too much costly to cultivate the larva, which is low cost. Feed the grain / larva as poultry feed.
Sorry, yeah. Let me look at the question, please. Yeah, basically, I think what the audience is asking is whether it is economically viable to use black soldier fly compared to other existing conventional feeds like soya or maize, right?
Right.
Right. So when you look at a small farm level, where a farmer is having his own, the waste is being generated on the farm and has a small backyard poultry going, it becomes quite viable for the farmer because it's basically the opportunity cost of the farmer with the resources available on his own farm. Okay. But when it comes to medium scale enterprise, it becomes expensive because collecting these wastes from the market, setting up a whole infrastructure at the medium scale becomes quite expensive. But again, when you go to a very large scale operation, and if you have tie-ups with the state governments or local municipalities and markets where most of this waste is generated, almost, if you look at the fruit and vegetable waste that gets generated every day in the markets is humongous. So if all that coupled with wastes like restaurant wastes and other human-generated waste, which can be used as feed hygienically, there's a huge scope. But again, scale is very important. Both at a small level, at a small farmer level, it works wonderfully, and at a very large scale, it works wonderfully. But when it comes to a medium-scale enterprise, the costs become a bit difficult because of the logistics. Hope this answers the query.
Right, sir. So there is one more question, Rohit, why biochar doesn't lose mineral after burning?
Sorry?
So why biochar doesn't loses his mineral after burning?
So biochar basically is not, it's predominantly carbon. Okay. So when you burn, when you have aerobic combustion, the whole of the biomass gets converted to ash. Then basically you will not have any char. But when there is controlled burning or anaerobic combustion, you end up with having this highly concentrated carbon mass, which is called as the char or charcoal, or when it is charged, biochar. So that's how you don't end up with ash. It still has the carbon left in it with very high porous in nature. That's what is the basic principle how biochar works. Okay. So it's basically the combustion type. If you prolong the combustion, eventually you will end up with ash. And if you control the combustion and do it anaerobically, that's where you end up with the char. Hope this is clear.
Right, sir. So we have Jyotish who wants to speak to you. Jyotish, are you there? Oh, I think it's not. Then we have A5. I'm not sure his name. Hello.
There's one hand I see raising. Oppo A5. Again, if anyone is interested, you can directly contact me as well, or through Agmatrix, you can contact me to know more. I can share protocols or share some resources related to these areas.
Right, sir. Yeah, Sudhanshu, you can ask your question.
Hello, Dr. Venu, sir. Great to have that kind of presentation, and it was immense learning you have provided in this presentation. Sir, I wanted to know about some actually the incubators who help to promote these kind of startup, entrepreneurs who can help to develop such kind of companies also. So how can we get the support out of it? So, just example, I'm interested in starting up for this kind of initiative. I have experience in organic farming from last 10 years. I'm working in Sahel Foundation as a program lead, but I have a actually interest into this. So we are not, though we are working in this sector from very long, but still we are hesitant to go into the field as an entrepreneur, because as we all into that comfort zone, looking ourselves like, okay, being a consultant, you are earning good or something, but again, that because you are into the field, you see all these activities going there, and just because of this presentation, again clicked me that okay, there are immense opportunities you have suggested. So how to find such incubators, or how to connect with these kind of same inline people? So help me with that, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
I think if you look around, I don't know the case in other states, but if you look just in Telangana, we have T-Hub, we have I-Hub, we have so many incubation centers as part of the Agriculture University, as part of the ICRISAT, or as part of Hyderabad University. Every state is having its own incubation centers as part of either agriculture universities or other universities, wherein a lot of these innovations are taking place. And even if you look at companies like Takachar, I think few years back, it was a small startup. Now it was incubated and it's growing at a tremendous pace, wherein both support from the government as well as the private sector from industry is coming. A lot of CSR is also interested in these kind of initiatives. Again, finding the right incubation center in your area, or at least I can connect you with some of the incubation centers in Telangana, or Telangana, if you are interested with in a particular area. A lot of connects can be made in these incubation centers, and even not only traditional VCs, but individuals are also interested in investing in such areas. And I know several of in my circle, people interested in investing if there is a entrepreneur looking at setting up something small to test.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for the input, sir. Thanks a lot.
Hello. Yeah, you are not audible properly.
Can you type? Can you type, please?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sir, this question is regarding biochar. I have recently gone through a research article which says that biochar is not at all safe for the soil because it entraps more carbon into the soil. The more carbon once entrapped, which doesn't allow the microorganisms. We don't give that much microorganisms. We don't feed that much microorganisms to the soil. So adding too much of biochar is not good for soil. So how you people recommend for this biochar?
I'm not sure which publication or which journal you are referring to. And again, research world, if you look at, there are both pros and cons for any technology.
This
And you
journal
always
was
see,
released by the American universities.
yeah, it could be an American university or an Indian university. But again, what is, I would really comment only if I can look at the article and what was the content and, especially what was the disadvantage they looked at. But traditionally, even if you
And
look
also,
at
sir, in certified farms, they don't allow burnt material to enter into the certified farms. Even in ashes, any ashes or any burnt substance, they are not allowing. So
in which traditional farms?
Certified farms.
Certified for what? Certified organic
farms.
Okay, this is something I have to check. This is new to me. This is actually news to me. But biochar is an established.
Actually, this addition, this was an latest amendment. This came last year. Actually, we had some hindrance in adding some materials in as an input. We are trying to prepare some inputs and for certified farms, but they said the burnt materials were not allowed in the inputs. So that's what we had.
I would really appreciate if you can share it, because this is something we need to take it to ICR and other institutes which have a lot of research done in this area and are promoting this technology as part of regenerative agriculture as well as organic agriculture. But sure. Again, as far as I have looked at or researched, biochar is safe, and biochar is at least in wherever feasible is the way to go forward.
Sure, sir. You can. It will be good if you can share your email ID.
Yeah, I would really urge Agmatrix to share my contact details.
Yeah,
to anyone who would like to contact.
Yeah, and also you can connect sir with on LinkedIn as well. So yeah.
Sure.
Thank you, sir.
I think Sudhanshu have one more question.
Sudhanshu, yeah.
Not really, sir. Just wanted to connect with you on LinkedIn and contact. You already mentioned that, sir. Thanks a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where are you based at, Sudhanshu?
Gurgaon, sir. Gurgaon office.
You're in the head office, sir.
Yes, sir. Thanks a lot, sir.
And so we have question, how to utilize circular economy in FMCG sector, especially involving in plastic packaging.
That's a whole other discussion. I mean, if you look at, a lot has been done in terms of plastics. But again, in plastics, there is different kind of material like high density polyethylene, low density polyethylene, and now there is a seven layer multi-layer packaging, which is very hard to recycle. But again, there are startups coming in this area where even EVOH or the multi-layer polyethylene can be recycled, and technologies are emerging in this area as well. But I am not an expert in that area, and I would not present in that area. Definitely there are many people working in that area.
Right, sir. And then we have a question: what are the early steps taken by Indian government to adopt circular economy in agriculture by farmers, and how to approach people regarding insect protein?
With regard to the government policies, I think DBT and DST are promoting some of the startups in this area. There are several, like for Black Soldier Fly, there's one IIT Kanpur or IIT Kharagpur startup that recently got funded by DST or DBT. Even other programs are also there for, especially for insect protein. But more, I think more opportunity will be there if you actually approach municipalities or the local mandis, where most of this waste is generated, and they're trying to deal with this menace or the nuisance of biological waste lying around and causing other issues like pests or mosquitoes and other things. So approaching the local governments and suggesting the solution and taking up a small scale production center or communal production centers is the way to go forward. I think even at an apartment level or a small gated community level, these technologies can be implemented, and startups are coming with such solutions wherein you can just install one completely closed loop system where you don't see anything outside, but everything happens inside.
Right. Right, sir. So one last question is there. Someone asked that he or she is pursuing MSc genetics and plant breeding and want to do PhD. I have looked position in universities abroad. They are asking experience in molecular work. So please suggest me some internships or so that I can get experience.
I think if you look at some of the, I don't know, if you are in plant breeding, you can always approach organizations like, ICRISAT or other organizations where there will be internship opportunities, and you can work in their molecular biology labs, gain understanding of molecular techniques. That is possible, but again, depends upon where you are located and what institutes are around you. You have to approach based on the feasibility. But definitely, I've seen ICRISAT providing opportunities for internship, even at Hyderabad, the Central University, and other places. Students come and learn these in the labs.
Yeah, yes, sir. So one last question is there: startup cost to start a commercial level soldier fly production.
Pardon?
Soldier fly production. Startup cost to start a commercial level black soldier fly production.
At a commercial scale, it could go up to 5 to 10 crores.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
Again, I wouldn't call it a startup. I would say, at a commercial scale. For a startup, I would say, there's no minimum.
Right, sir.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think we have taken all the questions. We can wrap.
Dear all, if you want to give the live feedback, just raise your hand. We will enable your audio and you can share your feedback. If any one of you give the feedback for this session, just raise your hand.
So, there is one more question in the chat box. It says, I want to know about commercial scale production of ethanolic extract of red okra.
Completely a different area. So I wouldn't, there are experts in that area. Again, you should probably approach them. Yeah.
Right.
It's not my area.
Yes, sir. I think we are good to go. I think we can wrap this up.
Sure.
There's a question.
I really appreciate this opportunity, and thank you, Agmatrix.
Yes, sir. I would like to thank you, sir, for it's really embarking and enlightening session for us to hear you. And thanks for joining from your busy schedule.
Welcome. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for your insightful session. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Today's session was more than productive for our participants. We imbibed the lecture from great people ranging from vast range of subject, and that is what we are aiming to deliver. We hope that these insights and knowledge would be multiplied in your future. I thank all our guest speakers for today's session. I would like to thank all our participants for their cooperation. See you tomorrow.
Dear participants, hello. We have shared the feedback form in the chat box. Please fill your feedback in that Google form. Thank you.
So before going, please do share your feedback, and we can connect tomorrow. Tomorrow's session is on carbon credit, climate resilience, and solar renewable energy. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, everyone.